Here's a photo of Epstein with a that's a child on his lap. Hillary Clinton looking like she just sacrificed a child to Moloch, literally. I started kind of dissociating even seeing this. Baby massage training manual. I can only describe this as a torture room. They're Satanists. It's right in front of you. Here's a photo of what appears to be a male victim. And this is very important because no one ever talked about the male victims of this operation. A picture that was retroactively deleted from the files showing pictures of Trump. Merry Christmas, everybody. Guess what our government gave us this year as a gift? The Epstein files. Not really. They gave us 3 gigabytes of a reported 300 gigabytes they have on file. So they gave us 1%, if that, of what they truly have. And so first off, that's incredibly disappointing. It's incredibly demoralizing. As somebody who's been heavy on this topic for years, I've been pushing for the release of the Epstein files since the first Trump admin, when Epstein was, I'm going to just go ahead and say he was pardoned. Maybe he's dead now, but for a while they clearly faked his death. You know, I know a lot of people have only started caring about this in this last year because of the insane fumble the Trump admin. I mean, I've never seen a bigger political fumble, I think, in my life than how the Trump admin in the second term has handled the Epstein files. It's been very, very disgusting. I want to go through the Epstein files today that they did release, because even though it's such a small amount, it's still so bad. It's still so disturbing, and it still actually offers quite a few insights into Epstein's operation and who's involved. And it gives us a better idea of who we need to put under the jail. And that's what we actually need to start pushing for. First of all, I'm sure you've seen a lot of these. Let's just start going through them. I'm sure you've seen a lot of these screenshots on X. This is what a lot of the Epstein files truly looks like. I mean, redactions is an understatement. This is just like not giving us anything, which is more insulting. Like, if the entire page is blanked out, just don't even give us the page then. However, it does get demonic. So first up, we have this photo of Epstein in an IDF sweatshirt, which I remember when this photo leaked actually a few months ago. And a lot of people were coping and saying it was fake or it was AI because they don't want to believe, for whatever, political agendas or purposes, that Epstein had anything to do with Israel or the Mossad, but he's wearing an IDF sweatshirt. And in fact, this got corroborated with another photo here, a photo literally of the same shirt sitting in his closet. So not a deep fake. And Epstein clearly worked with Israel, for Israel. I started kind of dissociating even seeing this. Baby massage training manual. If your resolution is to get your life back together after the holidays, Hypnosio is the best way to build habits that actually are going to stick during the new year. Today's video is sponsored by Hypnosio. It's a self-hypnotherapy app that is genuinely not like anything else in the weight loss space. I know everyone always says this is different. This really is. Hypnosio doesn't just throw another diet at you or shame you into working out. It goes deep and works with your subconscious to actually rewire your emotional patterns that lead to things like overeating, stress eating, and just sabotaging your overall weight loss goals. It uses guided hypnotherapy sessions available on any device or through their app. It targets things like emotional eating, portion control, food anxiety, and even the guilt and stress that oftentimes keeps us stuck. It's science-backed, it's clinically supported, and it's honestly way more affordable and accessible than going to see a hypnotherapist in person. And here's what makes it so cool. It helps rewire your automatic food responses. It lowers stress, lowers cortisol levels so that your body isn't fighting any of your new progress. It teaches mindful eating and real hunger cues, and it actually supports long-term weight loss. 94% of users actually keep the weight off better than control groups. And if you're someone who's really busy or travels a lot or just doesn't want to micromanage your calorie intake, this is so perfect for you. Plans start as low as just $11 a month, which is so amazing considering it's actually rewiring your brain's relationship with food. So if you're ready to stop fighting yourself and finally feel in control, head to hypnosio.com right now or download the Hypnosio app from the App Store or Google Play. You guys are gonna love it. Thank you so much to Hypnosio for sponsoring this video, and now on to the rest of the video. As you can see, this is clearly was something important to Epstein to have it on hand, an instruction book on how to massage babies. And Obviously, if you know even, the surface level information about Epstein's operation is it involved sexual massages. And so paging Megyn Kelly, this is not exactly the barely legal type that you wanted to make it about. I don't know why. Like, for me, I'm a Republican, but as a Republican who's been pushing for justice for these victims and for the Epstein files for years, I can't imagine finding it within me to try to defend anything to do with it. So when I see people like Megyn Kelly, stumble into trying to mitigate it or make it about like, oh, he was only into barely legal. Toddlers ain't legal in, I guess in some countries they are, but in any country with a remote, moral compass are not legal. So any comment, Megyn Kelly? Here's a photo of Epstein with that's a child on his lap. That's clearly looks like a tween girl. So again, if you think this is only adult women or escorts or hookers, a child can't be a hooker. So, and here's an actual baby. Important to note that Epstein did not have kids. Neither did Ghislaine Maxwell. So why children would be in and around his properties at all is really, really disturbing. Here's another photo of Epstein half naked. And as you can see here in the corner of the photo, that is a very small foot. I can't imagine that the human in this photo is older than, I don't know, 5, 6, 7. Like, this is some really disturbing stuff. And I feel like a lot of this Epstein stuff, first of all, is just, political football for most people. But a lot of people have turned it almost into this meme or something. Like, it's this sort of lore or story that doesn't have any sort of tangibility to it. But these photos speak for themselves. So this is a disturbing element. And by the way, these are all things that I saved from, I was looking through all the files for hours and hours. So these are the things I just found the most interesting and or damning. We have this note written talking about how Epstein would ID girls. He would ask for the ID of girls on the island, but to make sure they were under 18, not over. So, we are ruled by lizards who like kids, and that's just clear. Here's another photo. Looks like a very, very young girl in his lap on the plane. And again, he didn't have kids. So, and there's actually a very good interview by a woman named Anya Wick on YouTube. If you guys want to look that up later after this video, watch this one first, who claims to be the niece of Epstein, who has a lot of things to say about his occult involvement, his illegal operations, and, if he does have nieces and nephews, one of them has actually spoken out, so check that out. So this appears to be I can only describe this as a torture room. It's a fake dentist office in his home with a bunch of really terrifying masks on the walls. This is giving major Hostel vibes. If you guys have seen the movies, I think it's a trilogy. The movie Hostel, which is about rich elite people who kidnap people and torture them for fun, for giggles. A lot more real, I think, than people would like to believe. And by the way, I'm mad I even said the word elite just now, because we really should stop calling them elites. They're leeches. This is the bottom, no matter how much money they have in their account, no matter how much power and access they have, this is the bottom of the barrel of society. I feel like if we start actually referring to them as that, rather than the highest of society, we can sort of break free from that conditioning and understand that these are people who exist in the trenches, the scum of the earth, not the other way around, no matter how expensive their houses and properties are. So Epstein also had a mask from the movie Eyes Wide Shut, which is a very, what I call a tell you movie, which is where they just put the truth in plain sight, which is also why they call it Eyes Wide Shut. It's the things we don't want to see. And that movie is heavily about all the occult activities, satanic ritual abuse, the leeches, partake in. And why Epstein would have this or be a fan of that movie is also very telling. And it's just terrifying to even have that in your house. I mean, ew. So this picture makes me laugh. Here's a photo of Hillary Clinton looking like she just sacrificed a child to Moloch. Literally. I mean, she looks like a witch. It is what it is. It is what it is. Notice she has no reflection in the mirror. It's giving witch. And if you think that's so far off, I mean, WikiLeaks years ago had emails with her talking about sacrificing chickens to Moloch. I'm not kidding. Like, I feel like sometimes I say stuff and people are like, I don't even know. Like, we're ruled by lizards who like kids, and they're also witches. She looks terrifying. I wonder what it's like to be in her household right now. You know, Shane, never leaving that man, though, who, trust me, there's a lot of him in here. So here is, again, I know that like atheists or people who are not religious, like sometimes they don't have really a lens to look at this for what it is, but like, they're Satanists. Right there, and look at that orb in the photo, right underneath these devil masks. Or are they masks or they art? I don't know. I wish you could kind of more clearly see what these books are, kind of spell books. It's right in front of you. And this is really what helped me, like, you know, there's a lot of reasons why I'm now someone who is connected to God and came to Christ and believes in God. But one of them was seeing how evil the world truly is and seeing how the people who rule us are definitely not atheists. Like, if you think that just because they push godlessness and atheism in culture and in school, et cetera, that that's actually their true beliefs, far from it. Far from it, because a Satanist is not an atheist. Surely not. You know, there's a reason why they all gather in Bohemian Grove and do their little rituals under the owl. They're surely not atheists. That orb kills me. Here's some spooky, I don't know what these are. Look like African demon masks or something hanging on the wall. Like, these are the photos that people tend to ignore when they're looking through the things. Like, everyone wants to be like, oh, the Bill Clinton photos and the Bill Gates photos, which I'm going to get to those, trust me. But I saved these and put these in here because I'm like, it's important to grasp the psychology and the mindset of these people because they do rule over us. I mean, all the crimes for which there's evidence in these photos we're going to get to, like, this all happened 25, 30 years ago, and we're here just begging for them to tell us the truth about it now. And that is not something they can actually do. Like, we can't even have that, the truth, decades later. So that shows you right now we can't vote our way out of this, first of all. This is the best evidence. The Epstein files is the best evidence that we cannot vote our way out of whatever the F we're living in. All we can do is shine a light on it. You know what I mean? And so I don't like to ignore these types of photos because it's like, this is who they are. In my house, we got crosses hanging up. You know what I mean? And not even that much because I'm, you know, I'm not so deep in everything that my whole house is like Jesus stuff yet. I'm not that person, right? But I know that what you put on your walls is going to reflect who you are. And so if you have African demon masks, what is that? Here is, this guy's a freak. What looks like a statue or an art creation of a bride hanging from the ceiling of his staircase. What that means to him, I don't know, but it's just more depictions of violence against women, obviously. Here is a really strange photo of what looks like a woman laying in bed with some kind of reptilian. Laying in bed with a green man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying this is really a reptilian, but what I am saying is my interview with Juliette Bryant, one of the victims, she talked about how when she was very tragically being assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein, she witnessed him shapeshift into something that looked like a reptile, a reptilian. Now, I'm not saying that he is literally a non-human thing, but I'm saying, is this some sort of depiction of what that looks like, whether it's some sort of costume or technology, hologram technology. Like, I don't know. All I know is it's very interesting to hear this reptilian topic come up, and then he has this photo. It's just interesting and weird. Make of it what you want. Here's a photo of Epstein with, looks like 4 topless young women. And by the way, they only, according to them, they only redacted the faces of people who were either victims or minors or both, obviously. And so these women, who knows what their ages are, if they're even women, I guess they could just be girls, but topless, looks like doing some sort of ritual here, and Epstein just watching. Weird. Here's a photo of Epstein shoving his fat face with cake, wearing U.S. Army pants with a bunch of Talmud books behind him. So another insight into his spiritual beliefs. Here's a book called The Whole Spy Catalog, which is an infamous book written by, I believe, someone who was in the KGB. There's evidence of Epstein also working for the KGB, on how to blackmail people by video without them knowing. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's clearly part of what he did. Although I also feel like it's important to note that there is enough information, knowledge, and whistleblowers out there to know that it wasn't just sex trafficking and, sexual blackmail that Epstein was partaking in. He was clearly a facilitator for a lot of different projects. He was connected to a lot of physicists. He had a lot of, and Brett Weinstein breaks this down really well. So maybe go listen to what he says about it. But Epstein had a lot of interest and involvement in anti-gravity research, which also connects to my interview with Juliette Bryant saying that she saw a UFO on his property while she was there. And if all that sounds wild to you, maybe you're not living in the current year, because all that stuff is part of reality. Get over it. He was also involved in a lot of genetic research. There's whistleblowers stating that Ghislaine Maxwell was collecting DNA from male assistants she had at the Zorro Ranch in particular. Epstein was doing a lot of genetic research that's actually really well documented, impregnating women. So there was a lot with the Epstein operation, and it's not to mitigate the sex trafficking aspect, but I feel like people only focus on those because it's sort of the easiest to understand. Like, yeah, they're all perverts, but there was a lot more to it. There really was. Here's a photo of Ghislaine and Jeffrey at the Queen's cottage, one of her homes. What's in the Epstein files is just a picture of Jeffrey and Ghislaine. But I put this photo of the Queen at her cottage to show it's the same house. And that's just another really scary thing, that he had access to everybody, including the blue bloods. Here's Bill Gates, who is, we already knew how involved he was with Epstein. I believe his wife divorced him because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and a victim's face has been redacted. Bill Gates just had dinner at the White House recently. I know he was on like The View and different talk shows earlier this year. So I don't understand why, just like Bill Clinton was on The View last year campaigning for Kamala, even though everyone's known for a decade or more, what he's into. I don't know how these people don't become radioactive enough to not be platformed. I know they're rich and powerful, but at what point do we just either put these people under the jail where they belong, or at least push them out of society and remove any respect anyone has for them? So here is Michael Jackson. Not a good look for MJ. I know people have a lot of different conflicting feelings about Michael Jackson. A lot of people don't think he was a pedophile. A lot of people think that the allegations against him are fake. I don't know, but being on the jet with Clinton, with Epstein, is certainly not a good look. Here's another photo of him. God, that's a creepy picture. Some of these pictures, it's like, I feel like you can't look at them too long, because it's like, it just starts like sucking your soul or something. It's just like, oh my God. Here is a photo of Bill Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell swimming with a victim. Another photo of Bill with a victim in the pool. And obviously, for me, I feel like Bill has definitely been sort of the sacrificial lamb in what they're releasing. You know, it's no mistake, it's no coincidence that he's the majority of the pictures in the files as far as like famous people, politicians, etc. And it's not to say he's not guilty or deserving of the worst punishment, because I believe that, but it is also like he's clearly the sacrificial lamb. Here is a CD titled Clinton, which is totally not blackmail. Like, who would think that, right? The contents on this CD have not been released, just a picture of the CD. Here's Kevin Spacey with Bill Clinton. Now, Kevin Spacey is one of the scariest MFers, in my opinion, on the planet. I get nervous even talking about him. I remember a couple years ago, I won't say the celebrity I was talking to, but I was talking to somebody who has been very much a part of very mainstream Hollywood life for decades, since before I was born. And when I brought up Kevin Spacey, I was like, what do you know about Kevin Spacey? She was like, don't say his name. And I was like, what? And she was like, don't say his name. And she was kind of like pointing to, you know, alluding to like they might be listening or something. That's how scary Kevin Spacey is, that people don't even want to talk about what he does in private. And a lot of his victims have come up dead. Here we have Chris Tucker, which very much corroborates what Juliette Bryant was saying in my interview, like I said. And I'm sorry that I keep taking it back to that, but I do want to give her props because, you know, her story has gone super untold because she's willing to talk about the more esoteric or occult elements of it. She's willing to talk about things involved in it that are not so cookie cutter, like daytime television. Oh, it was just a sex trafficker. She talked about a lot of different things. And so people don't want to believe her, but everything I've seen in these files is corroborating what she said over and over and over again. Here we have a really ridiculous photo, and I saved this one because even though the DOJ said that the only reason they were redacting or blacking out faces is because they were victims and or minors, these are clearly men in suits and ties. So why are their faces blacked out? Why are we protecting whoever these people are? It's disgusting. We really live on a rock, floating through space, paying taxes. It is what it is. Why are we still paying taxes? We can't even get basic answers about an operation from decades ago. And no one has been arrested. The only person sitting up in jail, comfortable jail by the way, is Miss Ghislaine Maxwell. And so, not to give, you know, the feminists any W's, but they do have a point when they say, isn't it ironic the only person sitting up in prison for the sex trafficking ring is a woman? I mean, that's kind of crazy. They ate with that, admit it. So here is another ridiculous thing. So this is Virginia Giuffre, and they redacted her face, which is ridiculous. This is a photo that's been in circulation forever. And it just shows the level of like disrespect in the release that like, why are you redacting stuff everyone's seen? Virginia Giuffre, by the way, rest in peace, who, even though, you know, you hear her story talked about on television or in the media, and the story is that she offed herself earlier this year, she wrote a note before that happened saying that if she were to pass away, she is not suicidal, and then she gets hit by a bus and passes away. So to me, it feels very disrespectful. People even talk about how she herself, because I don't believe she did, just like I don't think Epstein did. It's very frustrating. Here's a photo of what looks like Jeffrey Epstein handing over a victim to a disgusting, bad built, looking like a sock full of socks man. I don't know who that is. If anyone does, put it in the comments because he deserves to be named. Here's a photo of what appears to be a male victim. And this is very important because no one ever talks about the male victims of this operation, for which there clearly was males that were trafficked. You know, there have been a few people that have come forward and talked about it on video, but no one ever takes male victims seriously. So, but clearly if he's hanging out with Kevin Spacey, who all his victims were male, like there's going to be that level of, you know, or that variation, I should say, of victims handed off to these disgusting monsters. So here you have a picture that was retroactively deleted from the files showing what appears to be a drawer of pictures of Trump. What a stupid move for the DOJ to retroactively take out pictures as if they're not going to get caught, number one. And number two, one of these pictures you've already seen before. If you're going to release the stuff, release it on everybody. Release it on everybody. Because number one, it's still not proof that Trump did anything illegal, but I don't blame anybody who just assumes or thinks that he does, because look at how they've handled this entire situation. They've gone from promising it to saying it's a hoax to, attacking Thomas Massey, MTG, anyone who was calling for it, to telling people that you're not really my supporter if you are talking about the Epstein files, etc. I mean, it's been very, very insulting. It's been a spit in the face of the American people. And like I said, never seen anything handled worse in politics. And so I don't blame anybody who just assumes that Trump is on par with Clinton in that regard, who was clearly paying for specifically services with young girls. I mean, do I believe that? Not necessarily. There hasn't been that sort of evidence. However, he clearly has been, it's so much bigger than Trump. And that's what's also frustrating about people on the side, that they just wanted the Epstein files because they just want to see stuff on Trump. Trump has a lot of people to protect other than himself as well. I mean, if you look at the people in this, and this is just the few that they've let out, I mean, these are the people that are holding up the world. These are the pillars of the economy and of sovereign states. You know what I mean? Trust me, I believe it all deserves to crumble if it's built upon violence against children and women. Then let it all burn down, in my opinion. But the administration has clearly a lot of people and projects and things to protect, a lot of other countries to protect, its own intelligence agencies to protect. And also, I think it's straight up just a huge incompetency issue with the FBI. I think the FBI is ran by complete morons. I think the FBI gets circles ran around them by the CIA, who I think has a lot more to answer for. I think the FBI is getting a lot of the heat, but I think that people need to be burning down the doors of the CIA as well. Here's another photo of Epstein with what looks like a child, asleep or unconscious, who knows. Here's David Blaine doing a magic trick for a bunch of lizards. I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how there was a magician in the Epstein files. So here you go, David Blaine. Another magician, there's two magicians, David Copperfield. I'm starting to think these high-level magicians are like actual dark wizards, because they're just a little too involved. Here you have Prince Andrew, again, dipping in that blue blood, laying over a group, sprawled out across a group of victims. Pretty disturbing. Did you know Prince Andrew has talked about how his lineage traces back to Count Dracula? One of the conspiracy theories, aka truths, I need y'all to get into is this bloodline stuff, because there's a reason why he can trace his bloodline back to Count Dracula. And it's a really dark reason. Here is Sarah Ferguson, former Duchess of York, again, looking like a high witch or something. I mean, the way these people look and dress is just too much. So I hope this was overall illuminating for you guys. It just confirmed a lot of what we already knew. Unfortunately, it didn't take the narrative so much farther, although it is fascinating in a really dark way to get an inside look at this. And I also have to say, I find it really annoying how you look at people on television and politicians who are trying to quiet down the storm of this scandal is an understatement, but saying things like the average person doesn't care about the Epstein files. People are worried about paying their bills. People are worried about grocery prices, which, first of all, also need to be brought down, yes. But the idea that poor people or middle-class people don't care about justice for victims, or don't care that the people who govern them are into this sick stuff, what does that say about what they even think of people that are poor or middle class? That they don't have some sort of moral compass, or they're just living this animalistic life, or they're looking for only their basic needs. They have no higher principles. They have no higher beliefs. They have no moral code. What are we talking about? Because you can see the rich people don't care about them either, the victims. So who does care about the victims if apparently poor people don't care because they're just trying to get food for their family, and rich people don't care because they're abusing the kids? You know what I mean? So I think they're projecting the fact that they don't care, clearly, as we just saw. And I think they're very terrified about the fact that the average person does in fact care a lot. I haven't seen anything this unifying in politics in a long time. People on the left and right coming together, albeit a lot of people on the left only have that bloodthirst for, hopping on, getting Trump. But if that's what woke you up, then whatever. You know what I mean? I just hope that we can start calling for arrests, because we're calling for the list, we're calling for the files, and that's fine, and we need all that too. We deserve the truth, but we really got to call for arrests. With that being said, even though this was like a really dark video, I hope you have an amazing Christmas. I hope you have an amazing holiday season, and I will see you in the next video. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as well as my podcast channel. Follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, all the things, and I'll see you next time. Head to hypnosio.com right now or download the Hypnosio app from the App Store or Google Play. You guys are going to love it. Thank you so much to Hypnosio for sponsoring this video, and now on to the rest of the video.